It should have been like any Saturday in Dayton's Oregon district.
Local shots fired. Local shots fired.
We have the human stories behind the people we lost.
That everybody, they all got up except my brother.
Into the deadliest shooting in Dayton's history.
A place that people come from all over to go to, and people of all ages go to the Oregon district.
We have Team 7 coverage on the victims, the packed vigil in the Oregon district, and the shooter himself.
Robert was, he said, 5-10 feet from this man.
To the officer. He was like standing over the top of him. He saved everybody that was out here.
You need to be in the lowest interior part of a sturdy structure. Riverside needs to be in your safe spot. Clement, you need to be in your safe spot.
And I would advise anybody with kids, get the bike helmets on them.
It was truly like a scene out of a movie.
People describe the damage as unbelievable, catastrophic, like a war zone.
Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
And 3 EF3s.
An EF4 tornado slammed into Trotwood. And late tonight, the National Weather Service found evidence of a 15th tornado. Police departments from our area and around the country said goodbye to Detective Del Rio today.
Detective George Del Rio, badge 262, will be shown out of service.
No matter how many times you see this kind of thing, the emotional impact really never lessens.
We were there as federal investigators unveiled corruption charges.
Did you accept any bribes? Did you have a cheap patio built onto your house as a part of all this?
And those being targeted, their time in Dayton politics and in doing business here in Dayton, that all goes back decades.
A water crisis leaves much of Montgomery County under a boil advisory.
So this is old school, folks. I have the mayor on my speakerphone.
We have our crews doing everything they can.
For everyone living in Montgomery County right now, everyone is under a boil advisory.
Selling out of bottled water.
This is a breaking news update.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl McHenry, News Center 7, coming to you just after 4.
We're hearing reports of multiple fatalities.
You saw all of this happen. Describe that to me.
Terrifying.
I'm in shock. You and I've worked here a very long time. I cannot remember this scale of violence.
It's just unbelievable to me. This happened. I'm going to recap now. There were 9 confirmed dead now, 16 injured. We do know at least 2 have been treated and released.
Almost all of them overcome with emotion, declining to speak with us, but confirming that they have heard the worst news imaginable.
This is the list that makes it all too real.
I'm being told we have a picture, so I'm going to go ahead and say his name again. This is 24-year-old Connor Betts of Bellbrook. Again, this is the suspected shooter.
These are outside of Ned Pepper's. See the suspect enter the bottom right-hand corner of the screen.
Molly, that video shows him, he falls to his death on the doorstep of Ned Pepper's. That was chilling to see.
It should have been like any Saturday in Dayton's Oregon district. The sound of music and friends laughing together on a beautiful summer night. Then
Local shots fired. Local shots fired.
It lasted less than 1 minute. 9 lives taken. Dozens of people rushed to the hospital.
Everybody's just screaming and running and just trying to get away. I've never been that scared before.
Dayton police ran toward the sound of gunfire and put an end to the violence.
I thought I was about to die to the officer. He was like standing over the top of me, like he started shooting at the guy. So he saved everybody that was out here.
Now, as our community gathers to mourn and to come together in the face of tragedy, News Center 7 continues coverage of the Oregon District mass shooting. The Miami Valley mourns the loss of 9 of its own at the hands of a shooter armed to kill hundreds, but his rampage ended thanks to the heroic actions of 6 Dayton police officers.
Tonight, investigators are looking for answers in the investigation into the deadliest shooting in Dayton's history. We have Team 7 coverage on the victims, the packed vigil in the Oregon district, and the shooter himself.
Police identify the shooter as 24-year-old Connor Betts of Bellbrook. The biggest question remaining was, why would someone do this?
Any suggestion at this time of motive would be irresponsible.
All over the place, they've been using chalk to write messages. This one says, Dayton Strong.
John, I'm standing down the street from where police carried out a search warrant earlier today to search the gunman's home. News Center 7 spoke with people that knew Connor Betts.
Laura Wakely remembers Betts getting in trouble while they were at Bellbrook High School because of a list she says he wrote.
Of people he wanted to shoot. He had a plan to shoot up the high school.
We reached out about that list to the school's former principal. I would not dispute that information.
parents of 30-year-old Logan Turner sobbing outside of Ned Pepper's. They left his high school football picture near the door for the community to see.
This is where I hang out and with my friends. I mean, it could have been my friends. It could have been me and my family.
The emotions of the community extremely apparent when Governor Mike DeWine took the stage, the crowd overtaking his speech. The mayor of Dayton saying this is a city built on grit and resiliency, and everybody here will rise up even stronger than before.
These are the victims. We're seeing pictures of the 9 victims killed. There were 6 Dayton police officers involved in the shooting who took the shooter down, and all being called heroes tonight. If you would like to help people impacted by this tragedy, there is the Dayton Oregon District Fund.
It's been a tough day, but we thank you for being with us throughout it. We're thankful for those brave Dayton police officers. We're going to get through this together.
You need to be in the lowest interior part of a sturdy structure. Get there now. This is a dangerous situation that has been ongoing. I'm sorry, I'm getting choked.
It's okay. And I would advise anybody with kids, get the bike helmets on them. Put them in the basement, put the helmets on them. You know, this is not a time to think about anything looking silly. Please stay safe. This is a very serious situation, as McCall is pointing out.
We have now potentially had several tornadoes on the ground tonight, and there doesn't appear to be any let up at this point.
We want you to be safe tonight. So if you're listening on the radio, if you're watching on your computer.
Looks as though Huber Heights is going to be on the north side, so this does not appear to be impacting you. But we're going to continue to watch this as it's moving to the south and east.
We're going to stop this driver. Hey, don't go. Excuse me. Sorry, this is what we've been doing today, trying to make sure. It's so dark, you just can't see.
Well, this is a live shot from our drone, our Sky 7 drone, showing that damage in the Miami Valley. Just amazing shot of just how devastating this is. Now, we spoke with a man whose house was damaged in West Milton. He describes for us what the storm felt like.
Definitely scary. Aside from all this damage here in this part of Salina, this neighborhood is also, so far, the only place where tragedy has struck. The Kanapke's next door neighbor was Dale Hanna. He is so far the only person to be killed in Monday's storms.
He was already in bed for the night asleep. And literally he did not see what was coming. It was probably a blessing for him, but it hurts our hearts as a community. We mourn with a family.
Honestly, it's the only tears that I've cried. This, it's a life. He didn't make it.
Tim Stein and his family of 4 were down here in the basement level. When they heard the tornado warnings, they rushed right down here, and they did just in time, because down there, huddled around the corner in the perfect spot, defended from anything that was flying around, they were completely untouched, totally safe. Almost the entire roof from the whole house was ripped off and into the kitchen. This is one of the most catastrophic areas that are inside this building right now. The roof is fully exposed.
Team 7 coverage of how our community is rallying together after 14 tornadoes.
But first, let's start with News Center 7's Sean Cudahy.
Cheryl and James, we went ahead and hopped into Storm Tracker 7, and I want to show you why. This is something that we're seeing all over our communities this evening. Debris just starting to pile up in front of homes as people begin the process of cleaning up.
1, 2, 3.
As people powered through day 3 of storm recovery, the horrifying memories from Monday night were still so fresh for some.
Scared out of my life.
WHIO has created an interactive map showing you where to find shelter and water. We've also listed everything you need to know about where you can take a shower, grab free batteries, and wash your clothes on WHIO.com and, of course, on our WHIO News app.
It was a neighborhood that Catherine Claiborne actually walked through on a fairly regular basis, walking a loop around the neighborhood. But last Monday afternoon, she stepped out of their home, and Bob didn't know it.
We searched the night through, right through the storm.
Claiborne says he never stopped hoping or looking until Tuesday night when deputies knocked on his door to confirm Catherine had been found under trees and debris.
It's overwhelming. But I have faith.
This is the crib where I found the American Girl doll.
The crib, I don't know if it's like gone or broken.
Timothy trusted us with this important update. It's in our car right now.
What? Oh my God.
Do you want to go get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh my God.
Here at the food bank, there's been a line of cars all day long. People are coming to donate this, bottled water and all kinds of items for tornado victims. This is the response in person. Let me tell you now about the online response. It began with comedian Mike Birbiglia.
It was through people texting me, do you see what's happening online? And then he donated, and then he got others to donate, and it's just been massive, the response.
Birbiglia has raised $55,000.
Well, first, I'm just going to put this big pile into perspective. I am 4'11". I'm standing on a stump that is about maybe 3 feet tall. As you can see, this still towers way above me, and I'm told that it might be even 25 feet tall. But take a look from this vantage point.
I'm just excited for them to get out there and show them who Trotwood is.
It's a much different vibe in the city compared to 6 months ago when Memorial Day tornadoes. DeWanna Coleman is an assistant principal at the school. Her house was damaged by the tornadoes. The football team was one of the first groups to show up to her home to help in the recovery process.
It just moves you to tears.
Tonight, a sign of the community rising after the Memorial Day tornadoes as demolition is now underway at an old hotel.
Many people talk about a long, bad history even before the tornadoes.
A lot of scrappers have been, ever since it happened, have been going in and out of there. Yeah, so I'm glad to see it coming down.
But after a few whacks, years worth of problems come crashing down in seconds.
And make sure you join us for our special documentary, The Memorial Day Tornadoes, A Community Rises.
This is a special News Center 7 presentation from WHIO TV.
I just keep thinking that it's still unbelievable to me, unfathomable, that we would have 15 tornadoes in one night.
Now we're getting a tornado emergency. We have several tornado warnings that are ongoing in the Miami Valley, and this is a dangerous situation that has been ongoing as this, I'm sorry, getting choked. I'm thinking people are dying.
We do now have one confirmed fatality in Salina. So we have been going all morning, hoping that moment wouldn't happen, but it did.
She told me that losing Dale, their next door neighbor, Dale Hanna, those were the only tears she shed.
This was much different because it tore apart the Miami Valley.
WHIO just learned a tornado that hit Trotwood and Dayton was in fact an EF4 tornado.
Yeah, I'm looking around and I just couldn't believe what I was looking at.
What I would basically describe as an entire neighborhood leveled.
And I know that it's just going to take a really long time to get everything back together.
I'm happy that there were many lives saved.
And that's probably the most amazing thing to me.
To hear stories of folks say that I was almost sucked in by the tornado.
No roof, and then I looked up like this under the match, I seen the thing going like this, great with garbage.
To not be sucked away. That's a miracle. That's a miracle.
It hit everywhere in so many different places, and everyone is coming together from other places.
They didn't need to know their first name or their last name. They didn't even need to know their address. They just wanted to help.
No one called them, no one recruited them. They're walking through the neighborhood with bottles of water. What I think it's done more than anything is bring the community together.
I see resilience already. And I know we're strong. We are 937 strong. We are Miami Valley strong. We are Dayton, Trotwood, Brookville strong. And I know that we will bounce back.
Now, 6 months later, our team found challenges as varied as triumphs, ruins, and repairs, and an overall lingering emotional toll revealed, walking the path of the storm.
And at one point, McCall was even worried that the biggest storm, the EF4, might hit our downtown Dayton studio.
Yeah, and that EF4 is our team's main focus. This map here shows you the 20-mile path that catastrophic tornado took that night across northern Montgomery County. And 6 months later, that still means issues for many Miami Valley residents in Montgomery County.
Most of the 228 Brookville homes damaged were in Terrace Park. At the time we started walking the storm's path last month, Brookville's city manager told our team 161 of those homes either had work completed or crews were making minor repairs. These pictures show how some are proudly rebuilding, like Gloria and Kevin Pennington, who cannot imagine raising their 4 kids anywhere else. Others grappling with insurance battles.
At this point in the EF4 twister's path, it was growing to its highest wind speeds, up close to 170 miles per hour. It was taking down trees and landmarks like the Hare Arena.
Like that, and it kept getting faster.
Scary memories for Makila Bent. She and her dog Champion survived the EF4 huddling in her bathroom.
They brought their members over, and that just showed you the heart of Dayton.
It got incredibly loud. We could hear the pipes shaking against one another, water being sucked through those pipes.
No quick fix is a common theme our team heard.
This here is our living room at one point.
With so many homes damaged,
a contractor was supposed to rebuild this house.
We have this huge tree that's about this big around stump that we need to get out. And I have no idea how to do that.
Sinclair Park may not open again until 2021. Most of the park's 415 trees, documented to be more than 200 years old, were destroyed. Thanks to an insurance policy, their owner was able to pay employees for the last 6 months. Despite a life-changing change in scenery, home is where the heart is, after all.
Just taking the opportunity to rearrange my house or pick out a new color roof.
Thankfully, she survived the EF4, but like dozens our team has talked with, her car was not as lucky.
And looked at the car, and he said, "Oh my God, it's demolished."
6 months later, our view from the air showed us much of that damage, including a destroyed grocery store, still remains.
There are a lot of people in this neighborhood who can afford their own groceries, but they don't have the transportation to go out to get to a full-size grocery store.
Those Dayton buildings, on top of more than 3,500 others in Montgomery County. On top of them, there's the property damage 14 other Miami Valley tornadoes left behind that same night. The rebuilding, for so many our team talked to,
I believe it was $60,000 to rebuild one,
is only part of the recovery stories. Mentally, the storm has left its mark.
It bothered me for months because, one, I felt bad that I didn't protect her good enough. We were in a situation we both could have got killed.
I really want to encourage you to read our team's digital stories. From my Dayton Daily News partners, Chris Stewart and Josh Schweigert.
James, that officer who was shot last night is Officer George Del Rio. He's a detective on the department since March of 1989. I remember meeting him as a young officer.
You are looking live right now outside Grandview Hospital as we wait for the procession, taking Detective George Del Rio's body from the hospital to the coroner's office this afternoon. You can see right here, this is video from inside the hospital earlier today. This is what's called an honor walk. We wanted to share this video with you.
All of these people, I've never seen this outpouring of love and respect and support, and you know what, I'm glad that we don't see it very often. It has been over 17 years since we lost a police officer who died in the line of duty.
Detective George Del Rio, badge 262, will be shown out of service after 30 honorable years with the Dayton Police Department.
Today, hundreds watched the sky above UD Arena as 4 police helicopters flew over Detective George Del Rio's funeral in a missing man formation. And as the choppers passed the arena, one pulled away from the others, symbolizing the fallen officer's death, while the others continued forward without him.
Police departments from our area and around the country, we said goodbye to Detective Del Rio today. He was shot and killed during a drug raid last week.
No matter how many times you see this kind of thing, the emotional impact really never lessens.
Just a regular guy from the time he was a little boy with his mother. They had a close relationship, you can tell. And then later with all the other women in his family, and I still love that term, George and the Del Rioettes, because he was surrounded by beauty.
All of them saying, just like all the speakers listed in this program, that they really couldn't put into words and how much love they felt for him.
He acted with great courage, heart, commitment, and dedication.
But he drove here to UD Arena today for his friend, Detective George Del Rio.
It's just a blessing. That shows the support that's coming in from all over the United States. And for that line to be that long, the procession, that's great.
Far Hills Avenue is back to normal right now, but earlier, between 500 and 1,000 officers made their way through here to show their support for Detective Del Rio.
Very happy to see all the people out in Dayton, Oakwood, Kettering, Far Hills especially.
News Center 7 has more coverage of Detective Del Rio's visitation, his funeral, and procession on WHIO.com and on our WHIO News app. We were there as federal investigators unveiled corruption charges.
Did you accept any bribes? Did you have a cheap patio built onto your house as a part of all this?
State and federal authorities unveiled the details of this corruption probe right here at the federal courthouse this afternoon. The men the center of this investigation, those being targeted, their time in Dayton politics and in doing business here in Dayton. That all goes back decades. Here are the charges and the targets of this federal probe of corruption in Dayton city government. First, Joey Williams, a former city commission member, facing a charge of bribery as a government official.
Well, James, I did reach out to the mayor this morning, and then I checked with her legislative aide here at commission offices, was told that she was not scheduled to be in today. Now, I told you at noon that our questions had prompted city leaders to decide to make a statement about what they're doing. And this afternoon, in a wide-ranging news conference, the city manager told us that behind these doors and inside this building, Dayton leaders did not know about the federal investigation. Surprise you?
Yes, it really did, especially after Clayton Lucky got in trouble before, and now Joey Williams.
But two recent massive outages have exposed what some customers call a critical weakness in the city of Dayton's water system. The I-Team uncovers the multi-million-dollar answer some feel it will take to keep the water flowing.
I was upset because I wanted to take a shower.
Documents obtained by the I-Team show Dayton's request for power generator help came at 2:37 a.m., just a couple of hours after the storm hit. Our I-Team investigation found, yes, it would cost many millions of dollars to provide backup generation at every one of these pumping stations. But at the same time, customers are telling us they don't want to hear that. They want the water to continue to flow despite the storms.
The News Center 7 I-Team uncovered new information about the lack of a document trail surrounding Oregon District mass shooter Connor Betts.
Pulled out a razor knife out of his pocket and just glared at me.
As our investigation examines,
no, I'm strongly opposed to that bill.
The growing debate.
It needs change through legislation.
Over the law allowing Betts' juvenile criminal records to be wiped clean.
When I say Connor Betts, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Evil. I'd say evil more than any other. Just pure evil.
I went to Sugar Creek Police in August and asked for any documents the department had tied to Betts. News Center 7 also filed the same public records request with Greene County's juvenile court clerk. Both agencies responded to those requests with the section of Ohio law dealing with juvenile record expungement. By the time Connor Betts went on his murderous rampage here along East 5th Street, there was no official paper trail documenting red flags in his violent past. His juvenile record had been expunged. Now there's movement here at the State House in Columbus to raise the age at which people can have their juvenile records wiped clean.
We were able to identify 88 female first grade students who had some type of physical interactions with Mr. Hopkins.
An I-Team exclusive.
In all videos, he's inappropriately touching her.
News Center 7 reached out to Springboro schools multiple times requesting an on-camera interview for the story. They declined, but did provide us with a statement.
Clear Creek Elementary has not implemented child sexual abuse education for students.
Had Aaron's Law existed, I guarantee you we would not be seeing the number of children that have been abused.
36 states have passed the legislation, but Ohio is not one of them.
What do you want the message to be to state lawmakers?
What's taken so long?
A Miami Valley teacher had sex with that father's son.
It's disgusting.
Tonight, in his first television interview, he speaks exclusively with the I-Team. But when the I-Team dug deeper into those license numbers, I discovered current state rules make it hard to know if teachers' sexual misconduct is increasing. But under current teacher rules, the I-Team discovered it's not clear how many of those hundreds of cases, if any, involved sexual misconduct.
Couldn't believe that would ever happen in the classroom.
During his first interview, the teen's father told the I-Team how that one act has forever changed his son's life.
You know, he's had to put up with bullying from other students.
What the State Department calls modern-day slavery. Tonight, the I-Team reveals where human trafficking investigations in the Miami Valley are happening. And the problem is so bad, Ohio's top human trafficking leader says it is hard to give you an exact breakdown.
An affidavit the News Center 7 I-Team obtained shows in June 2017, a Vandalia police detective reported a possible human trafficking operation, saying for years he'd seen groups of people getting dropped off near this McDonald's and Shell station off I-75.
We would see people in suitcases coming in and out of every couple of months. It seemed like the people that actually lived there got kind of traded out.
Should police or family be able to take guns out of the hands of people with mental health issues?
We need to begin to do something.
The complete destruction of due process.
Our I-Team investigation found there's one part of our region that already has this kind of law on the books. It's here in Richmond, Wayne County, Indiana.
Not only can save lives, but it also can protect the individuals.
Sheriff Randy Redder says they've used this law in his county 10 times in 2018. 2 times so far this year.
Gun owners look at red flag legislation as the complete destruction of due process.
They say their app has stopped several school shootings. Tonight, the I-Team is investigating if it's living up to its claim.
Now, they think Bark has the potential to prevent these kinds of attacks.
We have helped escalate 16 plausible school shooting threats to the FBI.
Yeah, that seems like a big claim.
Credibility, Jordan says, can be proven by her company working directly with the FBI. But in an email, an FBI spokesperson told the I-Team they needed more information to know who the tech company talked to verify their findings.
But News Center 7's John Bedell found people slipping out of those ankle bracelets with violent, even deadly consequences.
James Banks' 14-year-old son was on house arrest wearing an ankle bracelet when he was murdered.
What did the world lose losing your son?
Oh, man, I think me. Pardon me.
Banks was selling a gun outside his mom's apartment when the buyer shot him. His killer's now in prison.
In just moments, our investigation digs deeper into this new technology. But the I-Team's John Bedell and photojournalist Brad Lee dug even deeper than that, recording video of their news vehicle's back window as they drove the right way when many of these crashes happened.
Then reversing the video.
We went back and rewound the video to see what a wrong-way driver would see and to test ODOT standards, and checked more than 30 exit ramps. During our drive on 675 and 75, all the ramps we drove had the required signage.
Storm Center 7 investigates the city of Dayton's decision not to continue not using warning sirens.
We didn't hear anything. If it went for Channel 7, we wouldn't know anything about it.
And our lives were put seriously in danger.
To cover the entire city of Dayton, it would require installing roughly 23 sirens at a cost of anywhere between $600,000 to $900,000. That's not including additional maintenance and operation costs.
20 years ago, when cell phones started coming around, and there was really more of a shift of reliance on technology to notify people of impending weather.
It was scary. Like, I knew it was happening, but I still, jumped.
We would not have done this if we didn't think our students could handle it.
While Franklin's principal said the drill's reality was necessary to prepare students and staff, Dayton Children's child psychologist, Dr. Julie Stuckey.
I don't think they need these kinds of drills.
Strangulation victims do not have the same legal protections most other states do. The I-Team looks closer at a push by some to close what they see is a strangulation law loophole.
During the course of my I-Team investigation, I learned being strangled even once greatly increases a victim's chance of eventually being murdered. Jessica Roberts remembers the morning last year her now former husband nearly killed her. Her story, just one example of why advocates support Senate Bill 146. It would enhance how someone convicted of strangulation is treated under Ohio's domestic violence law. Right now, only Ohio and South Carolina do not have felony strangulation statutes. An I-team investigation 3 years in the making.
The VA's own rule to pay for non-VA emergency care is named after Staub. But a loophole in the Staub rule could leave any veteran vulnerable to massive medical debt if it's not fixed.
Should you cry for all the other servicemen that haven't got theirs just? It's just not me. It's all the other ones.
3 years ago, this same panel of U.S. Court of Veterans Appeals judges ordered the VA to follow the law and pay emergency care bills for veterans who had other insurance and went to non-VA hospitals. To answer that question, our reporting was brought up during this May hearing.
I was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
But since Paul served in Thailand instead of Vietnam, his Veterans Administration benefits do not cover his Agent Orange exposure and resulting illness.
We were the bomber days.
Bob McHenry showed us maps of the bases in Thailand. He also showed us declassified documents that claim Agent Orange was only sprayed on the base perimeters.
Captain Gaffney died on my knees.
Ohio survivors and their loved ones are still fighting for benefits they say the federal government owes them.
To me, this is unfinished business.
Now the I-Team examines the loophole survivors say is standing in the way of closure and justice.
Some soldiers from our area were there that day. Some told me they and their families are still fighting for medical benefits and honors they think they deserve. The biggest injustice in their view, continuing to label the Fort Hood shooting workplace violence.
And all I've asked for, make the award and amend its grade marker, and I'll go away.
Our I-Team uncovered an alarming increase in meth, ruining countless lives of addicts and their families.
The I-Team has learned meth is now back on top, flooding Miami Valley streets with more than enough supply to meet demand. But this new meth source and potency has changed. Just 10 years ago, people were using old buildings like this burned-out house to make their own meth, to use it or sell it on the street. But not so much anymore because it's coming from another country.
And then suddenly at 3:30, we saw this rush of people rush past us and moving into the courtroom right here. It's courtroom 3. We heard people saying, what's going on? We thought the jury might have had a second question. Then all of a sudden, there's a verdict, there's a verdict. We started hearing that echo around this hallway. I grabbed the bailiff and said, do we have a verdict? He said, yes. And then we saw all these people rushing right into this courtroom where this trial was. And then we heard those mostly not guilty verdicts almost across the board. She had an appointment in April 2017 looking for birth control pills. But the 18-year-old was told she was more than 30 weeks pregnant. She kept the news a secret and gave birth 11 days later. Then in July, Richardson showed up for a follow-up without the baby. When the doctor asked where the infant was, she broke down. She said she gave birth to a stillborn at home and buried her daughter's body in the backyard. Serious charges she was facing. We heard that not guilty, and we saw Richardson trembling, and she started bawling, Cheryl and Molly, because this is a young woman who was facing the potential of spending the rest of her life in a state prison. And now, after this verdict that was delivered, she will spend at most 6 months in a county jail. Mark, everybody wants to know about Skylar's mom, Kim Richardson. She has been front and center of this, I can tell you, since following this from the early days, since day one.
On November 5th, 2009, where a man opened fire and killed 13 people. And
Can brief background on that case
on
for folks
that
who might
case,
not know? Yeah.
Sure. So a few weeks ago, Austin Hopkins, he was a former Springboro elementary school gym.
I just want to give you a behind-the-scenes look at what I do here on Daybreak.
They are the stories of our everyday Miami Valley neighbors doing extraordinary things, making a difference in our community.
Thanks, Joe.
Those who listen.
You've been more of a help to me than I think I've been to you.
So others can find hope.
Just really relatable.
Those who inspire.
I live it every day.
Simply by teaching. Those who lead just because they care that much about helping.
Because you never know what turns life is going to take.
It's helping after all, after Mother Nature brought unprecedented destruction.
It just feels good helping out the local community.
2 young boys joined the community in the spirit of service. A spirit of kindness, shown not only by actions, but also through words.
We all miss him very much, especially my dad.
To an officer's family, lost serving and protecting our community.
You're back again, I see.
A community full of members.
Life goes on. If you don't, you give up, you're dead.
Choosing to get up instead of being knocked down.
I try to do it with all my 100%, all my heart.
Of sharing laughter with a stranger.
I don't know.
To make their day brighter. To make their life stronger. Truly making a difference. With the lights of the season shining bright here at Kettering's Fraze Pavilion, we hope you're having a wonderful holiday season.
You know, it was dark.
Panic as at least 5 tornadoes wiped out homes and tossed cars around like toys.
It was truly like a scene out of a movie.
People describe the damage as unbelievable, catastrophic, like a war zone.
Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking.
Tornadoes killed a man and hurt more than 130 people.
This, it's a life. He didn't make it, and it's tragic.
That's now on News Center 7. And good evening, I'm Cheryl McHenry.
And I'm James Brown. It was this time last night that News Center 7 was wall-to-wall with our coverage, tracking 5 tornadoes that left behind devastating damage. We just learned an EF3 tornado that hit Beaver Creek actually started in Riverside. And an EF2 tornado swept through northern Montgomery County, not too far from Englewood. Also, an EF0 tornado was just confirmed near Phillipsburg.
One person died in Salina, and across our area, storms hurt more than 130 other people. The National Weather Service confirmed the 4 tornadoes touched down in 3 different counties.
And WHIO saw catastrophic damage in 6 cities. Tonight, Greene, Mercer, and Montgomery counties are under a state of emergency.
News Center 7 has team coverage from the hardest hit areas. Let's start with Sean Cudahy in Trotwood, where thousands are in the dark tonight.
Well, you certainly don't have to look far to find debris in yards. That's all over the region. Meanwhile, another common sight, pitch black. Even at this hour, you'd expect to see at least some lights coming from homes like these, but with the power out, there are none. That has people finding ways to cope while others deal with much bigger problems.
I was actually laying in my bed. And
Shamika Milner showed us exactly what she did when the winds kicked up Monday night.
So I see the window shaking real bad. The window is shaking real bad, and I feel the apartment shaking. So I immediately go into the closet.
Deafening sounds as she tried to stay sheltered.
I'm doing this. I can't close the door at all.
Then, as the winds calmed down, a horrible discovery.
I was in such shock. I could not believe it. I'm looking all through my house. There's no roof at all. I'm crying. I'm upset.
Her apartment now trashed and completely exposed. After police freed her, she'd been trapped behind this part of the roof that fell. She went to stay with her parents and is now figuring out what furniture she can salvage. Meanwhile, many more in Trotwood are without power and thus many of life's conveniences.
I lost my power and I don't have water right now either. But
as power crews gathered and then got to work Tuesday dealing with lines tangled in debris, Jason Hampton handed out food and diapers.
They food is going bad. That's why I'm delivering pieces, and it's just hard for people dropping out Pampers to people who can't make it to the stores.
You hungry? Come on. There's water, there's cold water, there's food there, man.
And these guys handed out water and meals.
People said, hey, we got families, we got kids in here that are hungry.
Collective efforts, 24 hours after a storm Milner and many others are feeling lucky to have survived.
I'm definitely blessed and thankful that I got out with no injuries.
And of course, one of the biggest problems with the power out on these warm days, no air conditioning. Now, I just checked with Trotwood's mayor a short time ago to try to get an update on the efforts to restore power. She told me at this point, no major updates. However, we can tell you we've seen these crews working all throughout the evening, and we know they'll be working around the clock to try to get the electricity on to as many people as quickly as they can. In Trotwood, Sean Cudahy, News Center 7.
Trotwood is strong. Trotwood has been through a lot, and I think Trotwood is going to rebuild and come together.
And tonight, so many people in Trotwood have to do just that. The mayor says the city has never had an experience like this before. News Center 7's Molly Kowick takes us to Trotwood to show us part of the tornado's path of destruction.
The Pinkards are all okay.
It's a blessing that we made it out okay.
But their house is a different story.
It was real scary. Me and my kids, we were downstairs watching Channel 7, and we saw that it was a rotation.
That's when they knew to get to the basement just in time.
It felt like the house was rotating, moving, vibrating. You heard wind. It just sounded like a bad freight train in a bad dream.
And when they came upstairs, they found a nightmarish reality.
We came up from the basement, And my husband, he came up first and he's yelling because he was upset. He could look up in the sky and see lightning from our house.
What was inside the Pinkert family home is now laying out across the lawn as the storm blew the roof off of 2 of the bedrooms of the house.
This is our side of the house. You see all of our siding is completely gone. Our second story is gone. And all the trees are down.
And Stephanie Pinkert says her house wasn't even the worst in the neighborhood. Nearby, Sky 7 captured what was this house, but is now a pile of rubble.
To have now witnessed, to actually have been in the line of a tornado, that takes my breath away. And to know that we survived it, that's just a blessing.
And Eyewitness 7 reporter Frederick Solanders Jr. sent us this picture before and after from Swallows Drive in Dayton. You can see the picture on the left. The storm knocked buildings off their foundations and wiped out trees.
For the past 13 days, tornadoes have caused massive damage across the United States. Yesterday, at least 52 tornadoes touched down in 14 states. At least 9 of those tornadoes were in Ohio. And now we've learned 5 of those tornadoes passed through the Miami Valley. That means a total of 13 tornadoes have touched down in our area just this year. Chief Meteorologist McCall Vrydag shows us the latest storm tracks and what areas saw the most damage.
Well, we did have a confirmation of 5 separate tornadoes from yesterday's storms, and the National Weather Service says they're not done surveying the damage yet, so that number potentially could climb as we head into the next 24 to 48 hours. This is how it's all shaping up. So we had 2 more confirmations of tornadoes this evening on top of the 3 that we knew at 5 and 6 o'clock, and most of the damage was clustered in this area in parts of Montgomery County. There was an EF0 that was confirmed near the Phillipsburg area, winds up to about 80 miles an hour. It was on the ground for about 3 miles. The more devastating tornado was the EF3 that moved through the Trotwood area with winds up as high as 150 miles an hour. It lifted near the Riverside area and then came back down. And we had that separate tornado in the Beaver Creek area. Again, winds up around 140 miles an hour. But the combined path length, this path length was on the ground for about 10 miles, nearly a 20-mile path length in northwestern parts of Montgomery County. And there was also an EF2 that touched down northeast of Dayton with winds up to about 135 miles an hour and on the ground for more than 7.5 miles. Then, of course, we cannot forget about Salina, which was devastated by a twister that came through. At this point, we know winds are falling anywhere between 136 to 165 miles per hour. Waiting for the official report from the National Weather Service on how long it was on the ground and how wide that tornado actually was. Now, we do have the threat for more strong storms in the forecast. We are quiet now, but live Doppler 7 radar shows thunderstorms already moving back into northwestern Indiana. I'm going to time out those storms, that severe weather threat back in our area for tomorrow. That's coming up in just a bit.
And the city of Brookville has a curfew right now. This started at 10 o'clock and will be lifted tomorrow at 6 a.m. The curfew involves these neighborhoods: the Terrace Park subdivision, Charlie Court, and the Brookville School campus. The police department has officers and civilian volunteers patrolling those areas. And you can see the problem in Brookville right now. An Eyewitness 7 reporter sent me some video. And tonight I talked with Brookville Mayor Chuck Lettner. He said his entire community either has no water, as you see right here, or it's just a trickle coming out of people's faucets. What's even more concerning is Brookville, if it has a fire, it will have to truck in water from Inglewood and New Lebanon. Brookville gets its water from Dayton, but said the mayor has no idea when it will have water again. This is because of damage to Dayton's water plants and power outages. At this point, the mayor said Brookville has enough water for its residents. That's bottled water. And Monday night's tornadoes are impacting water across Dayton and Montgomery County. News Center 7's Monica Castro joins us live in Dayton.
Well, some areas do have lower water pressure than others. A couple of the areas' water treatment plants lost power during the storm, so right now Dayton is under a boil advisory. Now, the Walnut Hills neighborhood may have been spared from Monday's tornadoes, but residents there are feeling the impact of the storms. Water pressure is lower than normal, or some people don't have water at all. Finding cases of bottled water was also difficult for many people today. Kroger on Wayne Avenue was sold out by 2 this afternoon. Now, the city will remain under that boil advisory until the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency is done testing water samples it's collecting.
Our Miami treatment plant is currently pumping approximately 30 million gallons of water to the system. Water staff continue to bring up production slowly and will continue pushing water into the distribution system.
When we were out here earlier, people were also trying to buy ice from that Kroger. They were also sold out of that ice. Now, the city did have several water distribution centers for people to pick up that bottled water. Also, we did notice a lot of good Samaritans helping each other out, giving them either cases of water or bottles of water. For now, reporting live, Monica Castro, News Center 7.
Montgomery County Environmental Services is asking everybody to stay out of the Stillwater and Great Miami rivers. The county said because of the outages, it is redirecting wastewater into the Stillwater River to minimize damage. If you drink the water or eat fish from it, you could get sick.
Tonight, 2 rounds of severe thunderstorms rolled through Mercer County, which was already hit hard by last night's tornadoes. Our crews caught heavy rain, thunder, lightning, and hail tonight. This is where one person well known in the community died in the storm. News Center 7's John Bedell talked to that man's next door neighbors about the storm and how they are remembering that man tonight.
I was going to stay in bed.
Tony Kanapke admits he was being stubborn when Monday's EF3 tornado was coming towards Salina.
And your wife grabs you and tells you? And she tells me, get your ass down here.
Like I kept saying, it's a rumbling. It sounds like a train. Run now.
The couple ran to the basement together. Tony got halfway down the stairs when his ears popped. And then
I'm looking up the stairway and there's sky and rain.
This is what their house looks like now. The storm that struck their block was merciless. The view from Sky 7 shows a home 3 doors down that was ripped clean off the foundation. Their basement is now a pit. Aside from all this damage here in this part of Salina, this neighborhood is also, so far, the only place where tragedy has struck. The Kanapke's next door neighbor was Dale Hanna. He is so far the only person to be killed in Monday's storms.
He was already in bed for the night of sleep, and literally he did not see what was coming. It was probably a blessing for him, but it hurts our hearts as a community. We mourn with the family.
Honestly, it's the only tears that I've cried. This, it's a life. He didn't make it, and it's tragic. And I feel for his family.
The Kanapkes feel fortunate to have survived the storm, say they wouldn't have made it without their basement. As they move on with the burden of starting over and the pain of losing Hannah, they tell me they'll always make sure people remember how he lived.
He was just a really good man.
In Salina, I'm John Bedell, News Center 7.
It just looked like somebody just took a bomb and
people say it all the time. This is the sort of devastation they only see on TV, but now it's in their community. Hear what a woman found when she heard pounding at her door.
And 24 hours after tornadoes ripped homes apart, reality sets in.
You don't even know where to start. Everything is ruined.
The range of emotions for those who lived through it. Governor Mike DeWine showed up in the Miami Valley today to see for himself the tornado damage.
And News Center 7's James Ryder rode along with the governor as he looked at the devastation in Beaver Creek, and James joins us live.
DeWine was making his rounds today. He went to Salina, Trotwood, Harrison Township, and here in Beaver Creek. He said he looked at house after house and wondered how anyone made it out alive. And nearly everyone did.
You look at Trotwood and what I've seen from Beaver Creek, and to think that we only had one person who died in this, in Salina, it's a miracle.
DeWine credited news media like WHIO with alerting people on air, online, and on social media as a big difference in saving lives during this storm. Chad McKinney was watching TV when the storm was approaching his Beaver Creek home.
Once they said, at the Mall of Fairfield Commons, that's when I ran upstairs, got my 2 kids who were sleeping, and ran downstairs to the bathroom.
Chad says he heard glass crashing as he clung to the bathroom door with his 2 young children in the tub.
It's okay, be brave, we're going to get through this.
Minutes after the storm passed, he got his first glimpse of the aftermath.
It was dark, it was kind of smoky, it had this certain smell. It was truly like a scene out of a movie.
The roof was ripped off of his house, and he said everything's gone. For now, his family will be in Columbus with his in-laws. A former Wright State baseball player has already pledged to help Chad and his family after learning of this devastation.
It's truly the Raider gang. I'm just the public address announcer, and to reach out to me in this situation is just unbelievable. And, having former, head coach Rob Cooper, who's at Penn State now, to share that, and it's incredible.
One thing that he can't find right now is a quilt. It was made out of his dad's old work shirts. Something like that is irreplaceable. Chad's like a lot of his neighbors right now, just trying to put together the pieces. The good news, though, no one in his family was injured during this storm. Reporting live in Beaver Creek, James Ryder, News Center 7.
The Red Cross has opened more than half a dozen shelters across the Miami Valley for people who cannot stay in their homes. News Center 7's Gabriela DeLuca went to one of the shelters tonight to see how busy it was. Gabriela?
Well, yes, the shelter is here behind me. That's where people can find a place to stay, get some water and some food. But this is what their cars look like when they show up here. Take a look at this one. The side mirror ripped off. The side of the car here caked with debris and mud. And check this out here. The back window smashed in. It had to be duct taped just so it could be drivable. We actually talked to a couple tonight. They came up in a car very similar to this one. They tell us they were scared for their lives.
And that's what it's about.
This is what volunteers at Corinthian Baptist Church have been doing all day long, loading case after case of water into the cars of victims of last night's tornado.
So we have people that have lost their houses, devastation everywhere around the area.
Two of those people are Reggie and Deborah Coleman, who live in River's Edge Apartments. They're at the shelter after a scary close call last night.
It came in real fast, like 100 miles an hour. Then the roof tore off, and the mattress flipped over right on top of us.
They spent the next moments hiding under the mattress.
And then I looked up like this under the mattress. I seen the thing going like this, great with garbage. Next thing I got one in the mattress. I was like, "Yo, we going together."
Today they went back to look at the damage. They took this video from inside their home, where furniture was scattered everywhere and the roof torn off.
We lost everything. I thank God we living later for that. I thank God we live. That's how you know there's a God.
For many families like the Colemans, it's uncertain how long they'll have to stay at a shelter or find somewhere else to stay. At one point, this shelter was at maximum capacity. Reporting live in Dayton, Gabriela DeLuca, News Center 7.
Never so happy to see live Doppler 7 the way it looks tonight.
Yeah, I know. Much quieter night than last night. At this time last night, all heck was breaking loose.
Yeah, it was. We have much better, quieter, calmer conditions now than 24 hours ago, but we still have the threat for strong to severe weather as we head through the next 24 to 48 hours. This is what I'm going to be focusing in on, not just because of the severe weather threat, but because of how many areas have been devastated by yesterday evening's storm. So any more rain, any more strong winds, this is just going to add insult to injury and perhaps could slow down a little bit of those cleanup efforts in and around the Miami Valley. For the moment, you can see we have partly cloudy to mainly clear skies in the Channel 7 viewing area, but further north and west, up towards Chicago, you can see a large cluster of thunderstorms that is ongoing. At this point, not at severe limits, but as those storms start to move to the south and east, we are going to watch them gaining strength, especially as we head into your day tomorrow. We have a slight risk for severe weather throughout the entire Miami Valley, so that's a 2 out of 5 scale. 1 or 2 storms tomorrow have the potential to reach severe limits. Main threats are going to be hail and damaging winds. That is a repeat story of every storm we've been tracking so far over the last few days. Heavy rainfall that could lead to some flooding. The tornado threat much lower than we experienced yesterday evening, but an isolated spin up is certainly not going to be ruled out in the environment that we are going to be dealing with on Wednesday. Let me take you through your futurecast. As we head through the overnight hours, we'll watch some showers and thunderstorms gliding by to our north. There's 1 o'clock in the morning, so if you're in Mercer, All-Glaze County, northern Shelby, you may hear some rumbles of thunder. That's going to be the storms passing to your north. Some showers may skirt on through as we head through the overnight, early morning hours of tomorrow. And meteorologist Kirsty Zonzini will track that if you're up before sunrise. By 8 o'clock in the morning, some showers and a few thunderstorms redevelop all across the north and west. They'll swing on by, not as potent really until we get towards the latter part of the day. 4:30 rolls around. Now we're looking at that threat for those stronger thunderstorms, and we're going to keep that threat for storms in the forecast through your Wednesday evening. So as we head into and through the dinner time hours and into the first part of early tomorrow night, those storms are going to be ongoing. As far as your commute forecast for tomorrow, should be decent. That's if you're not in any areas that are affected by the damage. By the evening drive, though, those thunderstorms perhaps could begin to slow you down. Tomorrow we wake up mild and muggy in the mid to upper 60s, and then temperatures rise back into the middle 80s, and that's what's going to fuel more of those storms, as I just showed you on Futurecast. Tomorrow night into Thursday, we have another round of storms. They'll be with us for the morning commute, and rounds of showers and storms expected through the day on Thursday, and that may increase that threat for flooding widespread in the Miami Valley. A lot of our rivers and streams are coming up above their banks in some areas, so any rainfall is going to increase that threat. Chance for some thunderstorms, as I mentioned, Thursday will be quieter, a few rumbles of thunder on Friday, and we do bring back the chances for some storms late Saturday and again on Sunday, quieting down into early part of next week. Tune in tomorrow morning. Meteorologist Kirsty Zontini will have the latest beginning at 4:25.
And 24 hours after these storms hit, people find themselves struggling to find direction and what to do next. News Center 7's Jenna Lawson spent the evening with people in one of the hardest hit areas.
My camera is outside. You're actually looking at me inside of someone's living room. Here off of Wagner Ford Road, the devastation is widespread. But I want to tell you, so is the resiliency. What has this past 24 hours been like?
11 years of memory in rubble, in hurt, sadness, fear.
Nearly 24 hours later, and Jill Holland still doesn't entirely know how to deal with all of this.
Who's prepared for this?
The storm blew out her back wall so forceful, a microwave pizza was pulled out of the freezer and onto the floor.
This is what time it happened.
11:19 is now burned into her brain. She showed me the basement where she, her husband, and their fur babies hunkered down for what felt like an eternity. It's a waiting game with her insurance right now.
The one company that they outsource to help with devastation will come at some point tonight and board things up. I just don't think they're aware that they have to do it to a whole back of a house.
But with help from her husband Jason, they'll rebuild. Until then, they told me they'll just try to enjoy their new ocean view.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for keeping these folks safe.
But just in the time I talked with Jill on her porch, I saw the spirit of this community, offering water, food, prayer, and in cases like this, Jill said it's those little things that will keep her going. Now, going into the nighttime hours, a lot of people are going to be concerned about looting, especially when their properties are unsecured like the one I just showed you. But again, another example of this community and the greater community really rallying around this. After I got on scene today, I ran into a man who said he and a group of other people are going to be personally patrolling this neighborhood. They want to make sure residents can at least try to sleep a little sounder tonight. For now, reporting in Harrison Township, Jenna Lawson, News Center 7.
And in Miami County, a woman said during the storm she got a knock on her front door. Jenny Wheelock said a family with 2 children needed shelter and came to the house for help because their home was destroyed.
It's just very emotional to see this happen. It's devastating.
Jenny told our crew her house was not damaged.
Across our viewing area, workers are already out repairing tornado damage.
Steps people need to take if their house has been hit by these severe storms. And this part of Dayton, Eyewitness 7 reporter Rob Gay sent us this video from Ohm Drive. He captured people repairing roofs and doing the best they could to clear debris.
For anybody who has tornado damage, AAA says people need to contact their insurance company as soon as possible. And people need to keep receipts for things they buy, like food, clothing, and housing. Insurance policies might reimburse them for those things. And when looking at the damage, thoroughly document the damage with photographs and notes.
We continue checking out damage all across our viewing area.
Up next, the latest numbers on how many people were hurt and which areas were hit the hardest. We continue to learn new details after 5 tornadoes touched down in the Miami Valley.
3 EF tornadoes caused damage in Trotwood, Salina, and the third moved from Riverside into Beaver Creek. And an EF2 tornado touched down not too far from Inglewood. And late tonight, the National Weather Service confirmed an EF0 tornado near Phillipsburg.
One man was killed in the storms and more than 130 others were hurt. Tonight, Greene, Mercer, and Montgomery counties are under a state of emergency, and still more than 45,000 people are without power.
And of course, overnight we'll be updating on WHIO's news app, and our WHIO crew will be back tomorrow morning starting at 4:25 with the latest details from overnight.
Quick word from you.
Quiet for now, but the threat for storms return tomorrow.
Thank you, McCall.
Folks, as always, we appreciate your company.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good night and stay safe, please.